Welcome to this presentation on making the grade in geography. This presentation relates to the AQA GCSE specification. There are three parts to this AQA Geography GCSE course. The first is a piece of controlled assessment. This is Unit 3, and this is 25% of your child's GCSE grade. This was what the fieldwork linked to earlier in the year, and they have already completed this portion, and their marks have been sent off to AQA already this week. The second and third parts are two exams. The first exam is Unit 1 Physical Geography, and this will take place on Tuesday the 24th of May 2016 in the afternoon. It is a 1 hour and 30-minute exam and contributes 37.5% of your child's GCSE grade. The second exam is Unit 2, and this is Human Geography. This will take place after half term on Wednesday the 8th of June 2016, and again it's an afternoon exam. It will also be 1 hour and 30 minutes long, and it contributes 37.5% of the overall GCSE. You can see in the grid that there are a number of topics in Unit 1 and a number of topics in Unit 2. The ones that are in bold are the topics that we have taught your child and are the only topics that they should answer in the paper. I will come back to that in more detail in a moment. So, looking at these two exam papers, Unit 1 Physical Geography, your child will answer the restless earth, which is question 1, water on the land, question 5, and the coastal zone, which is question 7. They do not answer any of the other sections because we have not taught them that, and they don't need to answer more than 3 sections. In Unit 2, similarly to Unit 1, there are 3 questions that they must answer. We have taught them population change, which is question 1, changing urban environments, which is question 2, and section B, which is tourism, question 6. This does not mean they're answering one 4-mark question. Each of these question sections, so 1, 5, 7, 1, 2, 6, are worth 25 marks each. So just to reiterate, the Unit 1 physical exam is on the 24th of May in the afternoon. The topics are restless earth, water on the land, and the coastal zone. The compulsory revision session that we are providing for the students will take place on Monday the 23rd of May, periods 4 and 5. This is part of their planned revision schedule that the school have put on, so if they are not in an exam, they should be with us on those periods. The human exam is on the 8th of June. Again, population, change in urban environments and tourism are the only topics they need to know. And the revision session for this is on Wednesday the 8th of June, periods 2 to 4. However, there is a computing exam at the same time. If your child is in the computing exam, the materials that we use in the revision session will be made available via the parent section on the VLE, Show My Homework, and also the Edmodo course that we have set up for the students. The structure of the exam is what I'm going to focus on next. So each exam paper, Unit 1 and Unit 2, is marked out of 75 marks. In each paper, the students answer 3 questions, with each of the 3 questions being worth a total of 25 marks. In these 3 questions, there are a range of different number marks. They can range from 1 mark to a maximum of 8 marks for higher, 6 marks for foundation. Questions that are 1 to 3 marks relate to the number of points to make. So in a 3-mark question, your child must make 3 points to get the 3 marks. In questions worth 4 marks and above, these are levelled questions, so they require students to write in full and detailed link-in sentences. This means that they would state their point and then they would develop the question by saying this means, therefore, as a result. There will be a case study question worth 6 marks on the foundation paper and 8 marks on the higher paper in each of the 3 questions on both Unit 1 and Unit 2. That means on a foundation paper, 18 out of 75 marks are awarded to extended 6-mark case study questions. On the higher paper, 24 out of 75 marks are awarded to case study questions. To break that down further, we have got here this table summarising the different structure of the paper. So a foundation paper will have one 6-mark question that requires the use of a case study. There will also be one 4-mark question, which is also levelled, so students would write 2 points and develop them. This means therefore as a result. That leaves 15 marks to come from point mark questions, so a 1-marker, a 2-marker, a 3-mark question, and in which the students write the number of points for the number of marks. So in every 25-mark section, of which they will do 3 in paper 1 and 3 in paper 2, that is the structure that they will follow. So they must make sure, if they're a foundation candidate, that they give enough points for the marks. The higher paper is slightly different and slightly more demanding. So a candidate in taking the higher paper may have paper sections that are one 8-mark question, one 6-mark question, and one 4-mark question. These are all levelled and need to include a case study, even if it does not tell them to use a case study. It's one way of getting extra marks. There will also be 7 point-mark questions. So again, it could be a 1-marker, 2-marker, 3-mark question, and they need to write the right number of points for the right number of marks. That's one way they might structure the section. An alternative way is they might give the candidates a 1 8-mark question, a 1 4-mark question, and another 4-mark question. Then they will give 9 point-mark questions. Again, the structure will vary in regards to these two ideas here across the two papers, but they will do 6 25-mark sections, 3 on Unit 1, 3 on Unit 2, and within that you've got this suggested structure. So what will the questions be like? For the foundation paper, the questions will be tailored so they're slightly easier to answer than the higher paper. They will have the following structure. So there might be tick boxes, fill in the gap paragraphs where the students are given the key words and they have to put them into the right place in the paragraph that's provided. There could be heads and tails statements where the students have to use a nice neat line to match up the key term to a definition. It could be complete the box task where there is a series of diagrams drawn and the students then have to write the correct statement to go with what's happening. So for example, that could be a sequence of diagrams show how a waterfall forms and the students then need to put in the words in the sequence. True or false statements. Mark and label task. This is where a photograph or a diagram could be provided and the students then have to label the task. They need to make sure that they have the arrowhead touching the feature and they use a ruler to do so. It could be a complete the graph, so a bar graph or a line graph. Some data is provided and they need to add it on. Following that, there would be some kind of description. It could be a definitions task, such as what is the hydraulic action or define the key term abrasion or erosion. Basic map reading will be tested, so there will be grid references, including 4 and 6 figure grid references, distances, and direction, so 4 and 8 directions, and then short descriptions. On the higher paper, the command words will be more demanding. So there will be words like discuss and evaluate. So discuss, you have to give the strengths and the weaknesses, which is worse, okay, or which is better. And then evaluate, again, strengths and weaknesses, and then make a judgment, your personal opinion. There could be double command words. So foundation will have describe, 4 marks, whereas a higher candidate will have describe and explain, 6 marks. Indirect use of stimulus material. So there could be the provision of diagrams or material that they might not have seen before, but they should have a knowledge of it. So it could be a sea wall, say Bournemouth, but we've only looked at a sea wall at Holden Ness. So it's slightly different, but they have to be able to apply their knowledge to it. They will need to be able to draw diagrams without support. So whilst the foundation students will have a sequence of diagrams provided sometimes, and they have to write the sentences next to it, higher students will need to draw the diagrams and put the explanation with it. There is also the expectation that case studies are included in questions of 4 marks and above, even if the question does not specifically ask for a case study. Every year students come out the exam and said there were no case studies in that, but there were. So the examiners do not always specify that a case study is needed. So if a student sees a question of 4 marks and above and they know a case study for it, they can include that information. They are expected to include it. So please have that conversation with your child, or if you're the student listening, be aware of that. 4 marks and above, you can use a case study. You know those facts, you've worked hard, you've revised, get them in there and really shine. So I'd just like to address some of these command words with you. So simple command words include name, give, state, list, define, and they will be 1 or 2 marks. Describe is one of the most commonly used command words, and this is where you have to write about what is there, its appearance, or what is shown on the graph. The amount of detail needed is suggested by the number of marks, and in a description question you must use adjectives. So if you had a picture of a stack and you're asked to describe the stack, you need to look at the picture that's in front of you on that figure and describe what you see, not link to what you know a stack looks like from our textbook description. Okay, so is it narrow? What colour is it? Whereabouts is it located in regards to the rest of the picture? Okay, so you must describe the picture that's in front of you, not the one that you've learned in your head. Another common command word is compare, and this is where you write about the similarities and differences. And in a compare question, typically 3 to 4 marks, you need to write in a like-for-like structure. This means that you write X has blah blah blah, a connective goes in the middle, whilst Y has blah blah blah. And you need to talk about the same things, so the same characteristics in the same sentence. So I'll give you an example. Constructive waves have a long wavelength. Connective in the middle, whereas destructive waves have a short wavelength. It's a bit like a tennis match. So on one side of the court, you've got the constructive wave characteristics, so constructive waves have a long wavelength. The connective in the middle is the tennis court net, so the whereas. And then the other side of the court, as the ball goes over, we've then got the other characteristic, the flip side of it, so destructive waves have a short wavelength. So in a 3-mark question, you want to try and do 3 of those steps. So the one side of the court, the connective in the middle is the net, and the other side of the court. When you are contrasting, you are writing just about differences. And this is similar to compare. You need to use the like-for-like structure. Contrast connectives include whereas, whilst, on the other hand. Compare connectives similarly, likewise. When you are asked to explain, this means you have to say why something happened. You need to give reasons. Okay? A good way of developing your answer into explaining is to use TIBS. This is because. Okay? Or this means that. TMT. Okay? Every time you use because, you are starting to explain. So as a little check for yourself, or as you're checking through your child's revision and their model answers, okay, just look for the word because or this means that when they're writing an explain question. Question stems that require you to explain will look like explain why, give reasons for, why have, why does. So if you see any of these questions on past papers as you're revising or during the exam, okay, these type of questions are asking you to explain, so you must give reasons. I've already mentioned before about case study examples and an answer. So there are 2 specific types of questions where you're going to have to use case studies. The first one is going to be your 8-marker for higher or 6-mark foundation, and they will phrase it, use a named example, choose one example using examples. So you must use a case study example if you want to get the higher marks. With no case study example, in a 4-mark question, you are only going to get 2 marks. In a 6-mark question, you will only get 4. In an 8-mark question, you will only get 6 marks. So try and include a case study example. If you forget the ones that you have been taught in class, but you have been somewhere that you can apply to the example, use it. That's absolutely fine. Okay, so if you really do forget the ones, the detail that we've gone through in class, and you can link to a possible geography experience you've had, then please use that, rather than leave a generic answer. The second way to use case studies is to improve an answer. This is what I mentioned before. Any question of 4 marks and above, include a case study. Okay, there's no harm in doing that, and it's expected for our top level geographers to do that. Geography is about place. Get those places in there. I've just provided here an overview of the case studies for your Unit 1 Physical Geography paper. and this has been made available in the classrooms, also on the VLEs, from homework, etc. So I hope that you have got a copy of this, you've printed it out, and that it's somewhere visible as you're revising. And you can see that for Rest of Earth, we've got 6 case studies. 2 of them, the Kobe earthquake and the Sichuan earthquake, will be a comparison. So you must make sure that you can compare and contrast their causes, their effects, and their responses. And that's likely to come up as an 8-mark question. The river on the land, so the water on the land sections of rivers, there's only 3 case studies for that. And then coast, you've also got 4 case studies. Okay, so there's quite a lot of knowledge to learn, but remember, you don't need to know everything about them. Okay, one primary, one secondary effect, or a range of social, economic, and environmental. Okay, learn specific facts that you can use rather than overload yourself in too much detail. Okay, you want to have a couple of facts that you can put into an 8-mark answer, but it comes down to your developing your point. This means, therefore, what was the knock-on effect of that? And this is the summary for the human geography paper as well, which will be the exam after half term. Okay, materials for these exams, these case studies, have been made available to you, and there's little revision booklets that the department have made as well. So if you haven't got one of these or you haven't printed it out yet, they are still available from the geography department. You just need to come and give us £1 to cover the photocopying costs. So what do level 1, 2 and 3 responses look like? So in the 8-mark question, it will be levelled, and to get the high levels, you need to write in connected sentences. So I've just got an example here. This is one paragraph that will be included in exam response. And the exam question is, explain the economic impacts of a rise in sea level, 8 marks. And this would happen in the coastal zone section of Unit 1. A level 1 response is farmland near the coast will be flooded. Pretty simple statement, correct problem, but really no development. A level 2 response, farmland near the coast will be flooded. This means that farmers could lose rice crops. So we are starting to explain because we've got this means that. And we've got a knock-on effect. We would lose rice crops. A level 3 response, farmland near the coast would be flooded. This means that farmers would lose rice crops when salt water flooded the fields as rice is a freshwater plant. We have developed our answer to fully explain why those rice crops would be destroyed. So that would get a level 3. To get the full 8 marks, another 2 of these paragraphs would be needed. And we'd need to mention a location. Just to take this a little bit further, I've taken the question here. Study figure 1 on the insert. Photographs of how people use fold mountains. With the help of figure 1 and a case study of a fold mountain range, describe how people use fold mountains. So with this question, the examiners have been a little bit tricky, because they're asking you to use figure 1, which is a selection of photographs, but also your own knowledge. So you've got to use your own knowledge if you want to access those higher levels. And I'm just going to jump straight down to level 3, and you can see that the answer is longer, but just scanning over it, you can see the places that are jumping out. Okay, so we've got the Andes, the Yonochoco gold mine, we've got Cajamarca, 55 kilometers, the Incas, the Inca Peru Trail, the Machu Picchu, the Lost City. Okay, so from just scanning over it, you can see that we've got case study knowledge coming through and our answers are developed. That's what it needs to be like. So the examiner needs to be able to take away the first sentence where you introduce your case study. So the fold mountains I have studied is the Andes in South America. And if they can take away that first sentence and the rest of the answer shows evidence of location details and it can be linked to that place, you've got level 3. You're going to be hitting 8 marks. Okay? One key thing every year that the examiners pick out as a problem is that students have the knowledge and they've worked really hard and they've revised, which, we're confident in you that you're doing, but they don't understand the question. So one thing that hopefully you've been experiencing in your geography lessons is this deconstructing the question. So where you focus on the command words, so you circle the command words to really focus on, am I describing, am I explaining, am I justifying, am I discussing? And then you look at the question theme, so by identifying the keywords, so you underline the keywords. So am I talking about volcanoes, am I talking about earthquakes, tsunamis, etc. And then some other questions will have a specific focus, a richer part of the world or a poorer part of the world. So when you're looking at the questions, you just need to take time just to circle the command word, underline the keyword, box any resources, and try and break down that question so you fully understand it, so that you don't lose marks because you've explained when you should have described, or you've described when you should have explained. In both of the exams, Unit 1 and Unit 2, there are a large number of geographical key terms that you are expected to know and be able to define. So you may see these words being used in questions, so you need to understand them to understand what the question is asking you, but you also might be asked to define them. To help you with the key terms, try using the look, cover, rewrite skill. Use note cards, so little index cards on one side write down the key term, on the other side write down the definition, and you can find the definitions from glossaries in your textbooks, or on the VLE, or in your student exercise books. You could then make little key terms where you could put down what the word is, draw a little picture and use it in a sentence. And the geography department have worked very hard to put a load of quizzes online at Quizlet, where you can go on, all the key terms that you're expected to know are there, and you can play the quizzes where you can play like space faders and you have to hit the key term, or you can play match up and you can try and beat the teacher's score on it as well. So that might be the easiest way to revise your key terms, because they are important because you need to know what they are to be able to interpret the question, but also there are going to be a number of marks just given for using key terms but also defining them. So basics for the exam. Only write in the spaces provided for and use the extra space below the question if you need it. Do not write in the exam margins because that's where the examiners mark. 2 lines equates to 1 mark. So the 6-mark question and the 8-mark question, okay, you should be aiming to fill 12 lines for the 6-mark question for foundation and 16 lines for the higher 8-mark question. If you're not filling that space, then you obviously haven't got enough detail. Okay, so you just need to think about, okay, have I developed my answer fully? Have I linked back to the question? Have I got a case study in there? You must write in black pen only, and I'm sure that's the norm for all exams, but that's because it gets scanned in and it will be marked online. Draw and complete diagrams, sketches and maps in pencil, a nice sharp HB pencil, so that you can rub out if you make mistakes. You are allowed a calculator and a protractor in the exam. Okay, there will be some mathematical skills in there, maybe calculating an average. You might have to add up things. You might have to do population change. So there is a couple of areas where you could be expected to use a calculator, or you don't have to, but it would just make it a lot quicker for you. Try and use the 3-part writing structure to fully develop your answers. So point, reason, justification. Okay, or point, evidence, explain. Unit 1 is out of 75 marks and it's 1 hour 30 minutes. So it works out about a mark a minute and about 15 minutes reading and planning time for your 6 to 8 mark question. Okay, so you've got some reading time in there. The Unit 2 exam is out of 84 marks because you get an additional 9 marks for spelling, punctuation and grammar on your extended questions. So for foundation, your free 6-mark questions, and for higher, your free 8-mark questions. So you must make sure on the Unit 2 paper that you have good use of punctuation, grammar and spelling, and you use key terms. Make sure that you have the correct tier paper in front of you, higher or foundation. If you're not sure which you're entered for, please come and talk to your geography teacher before the exam. Your equipment checklist, I think you are provided with a pencil case that will have everything for you, but for peace of mind, 2 black pens, 2 pencils, a rubber sharpener, calculator, protractor, a compass and a ruler is what you are allowed to have for this exam. The spelling, punctuation and grammar marks that I've just mentioned, they are marked out of 3 marks, and as I said, they get 9 marks on the Unit 2 paper. To get a high performance, so 3 marks on each of the questions, you need to do the following. You must spell, punctuate and use the rules of grammar with consistent accuracy and effective control of meaning in the context of the demands of the question. Where required, you use a wide range of specialist terms adeptly and with precision. So basically, you check you've got capital letter use at the start of the sentences. You make sure that place names have got a capital letter. Use full stops, commas, semicolons. Key terms, rather than saying where's away, you say a roads. Okay? Rather than saying break down, you would say weathered. Okay, so substitute key terms for everyday language and you'll be hitting 3 marks for your spelling, punctuation, grammar on those 8-mark questions in the Unit 2 paper. If you have access arrangements for spelling, punctuation and grammar, you can still get marks despite that. So if you're using a scribe, if you dictate your answers, you are eligible for marks for grammar. So this is 1/3 of the total marks. If you dictate your answers and indicate to the scribe punctuation, you can get marks for punctuation and grammar. If you dictate your answers, indicate punctuation, spell out every word, you can get all SPAG marks. Your scribe, your LSA that will be assisting you in the exam, will give you this information. So please don't panic, you'll still be able to get these marks as well. So basics for the exam: underline the command words and key terms, focus your mind on the question in front of you, not the question that you wish it was. Students will also have an insert and an OS map to use with the exam questions. They must make use of these in their exam answers. Okay, so there will be a booklet and it will ask you to refer to figure 1 in the insert, or there might be an OS map. It's quite busy on that table, it's quite a small area, so you're going to have to manage that effectively and make sure that you're using the right figure for the right question. Lots of revision materials, video clips, etc. have been made available to your child, and information came out of this in the Chronicle recently. It was made available at Parents' Evening. But for whatever reason, if you've lost access, you don't know how to access it, this is how you get the materials. So you go to the school website. You are then going to click on the VLE tab at the top of the home page of the school website. This will then take you to this page here, and you want to click on the Parents tab on the left-hand side of the page. On this page, you then need to click on the tab for Geography, which is Ideas and Strategies for Supporting Your Child in Geography. Then you need to scroll down to Key Stage 4 AQA GCSE Year 11 students, and here you'll find folders with revision materials, exam papers and mark schemes, scans of the revision textbooks, case study booklets that the department put together, the weekly exam question that your child has been doing in school, as well as all the mark schemes for it. There is also a document detailing different revision videos that have been put together, from BBC Broadband to Mrs. Dunlop's YouTube channel, to bite-sized videos, etc. So a whole host of resources that if your child is saying that they don't know where things are, this is where it is. An easier way to access this information is if you've got the QR reader on your smartphone, hold it over the QR code here and it will take you directly to the web page where all that material is. If you have not purchased a revision book yet and you still wish to, these can be purchased online from Amazon or you can buy them from the Quad Shop. Hope I've been able to answer all of your questions about the exam. If you do have any further queries, then you're more than welcome to contact us, and our contact details are given below. I wish your child the best of luck for their exam and with their revision. Okay, I hope they do really well.